Good afternoon. This is Pam with Follow Your Brush, and welcome if you've never been here before. Thank you for stopping in and checking. I am not a professional artist. I am not here representing myself as a master teacher or anything. I'm a watercolorist on an adventure, learning, trying to answer questions as I go. And if that's you, if you are experimenting and learning as well, then welcome. Come join me. And as I find answers to my own questions, I'll share them with you. This last week, I didn't do a video last weekend, but I was busy. I'm really busy. And then this last week, I was fortunate enough to be able to go see the Georgia O'Keeffe exhibition of her work of New York, my New Yorks, in Atlanta High Museum of Art, which is where I live in Atlanta. And I just gained a few things that I want to pass along that spoke to me. There is so much information to gather by going to an exhibit like this that I can't share it all, and I can't share the whole book because I'd probably be violation of copyright. But there are some things that just really stuck out to me that I want to share. So when I go to these exhibits, I like to buy the big books that go with them because it breaks down everything, and you can kind of digest it a little bit at a time. And just a few things that I wanted to bring out that I learned by watching that I want to incorporate into my own practice. I know I'm not going to be a Georgia O'Keeffe. I know I'm not necessarily, going to have paintings and exhibits, but there are things that I can glean from seeing these other artists. I went to Van Gogh, I went to Rembrandt's, and they're all, some of the same themes run through each artist. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. One of the first things I wanted to talk about and share with you, and I've got these marked with my little kitty cat paper clips. Aren't they cute? That's my life, is my kitty cats and painting. But she moved from the Southwest and she moved to New York City, and this was a time in her life, this was in the 20s, when the buildings were just beginning. The skyscrapers were just beginning to be built. In fact, a lot of the buildings that are there now hadn't even been built yet. They were in the process of being built. So it's really interesting that she was there during that development of time, and she and her husband, who was a photographer, lived in the Shelton building. And at one point they were so many floors up, and then they moved up even higher. And so this affected the way she painted, in that she looked at things from different perspectives, from looking down rather than looking up, or being at a horizontal view. And this was one of the things that I thought was very interesting, because I know I face this in my own life, and you may as well. It said her panoramic view looking east Manhattan rooftops toward the East River and the distance borough of Queens resulted in a tremendous group of 6 paintings, 3 pastels, as well as related drawings in charcoal and graphite that reveal her interest in capturing. This is what I want to stress. They capture the fleeting experiences of seeing a fixed view on a daily basis. Now think about that a minute. It said this precisely was what led to her tremendous range of experimentation using limited compositional elements, an elevated view, panoramic view of the buildings, seen through her seasons, atmospheric changes. So she varied her scale, her medium, choosing between large, small, pastel, oil, paper, and canvas to work through her impressions. So the breadth of her engagement from the view above reaffirms this generative intensity. here's what I want to say about that. I think this is so interesting. That's like when I choose to do, this is a very brief example. I mean, very limited in scale compared to Georgia O'Keeffe. But I have my one little dogwood tree that I like to paint in all different seasons of time. And I paint it, you know, green. I've painted it when it's, you know, springtime, painted it in the fall. But it's a fixed, that's just my example. It's a fixed, here's a couple of my trees. It's the same tree, but I'm looking at it differently. Here's another one, September 12th. I'm not sure what the date is on that one. And then I finally just took it totally differently and did this one, where I just put the water on the paper and dripped in my colors. And I love this one the most. So it's the same fixed object, but looking at it differently and painting it differently. That's what she was so good at. And that's just my small example of what I gained from that. It's like, wow. We can look at the same thing. Sometimes we think we have to go on trips, so we have to go around the world. But she looked at the same fixed view every day. This was, let me get to another one here. I've got them marked with my paper clips. I can't go through the whole book, obviously, but here's another one. She walked a lot, and it said that she made walking, looking, and considering a habit. She declared that walking was essential to her artistic vision. I do not walk to escape, I walk to see something. While walking, she aimed to frame and reframe the environment, weigh shapes, forms, test her eye, and analyze the possibilities for expression. So she was looking, she did all her painting within a 5-block radius, her famous paintings, 5-block radius of where she was living. And now let me give you an example. Let's move on. This was one of her very famous paintings of the Brooklyn Bridge. But what I wanted you to see was her progression and how she went about this. So let's look here. This was just fascinating to me. And all these originals were there at the exhibition, so we got to look at them close up. So here is her sketch. This is just pencil on paper. And look, even her lines aren't straight, which I thought was great because, you know, I cannot draw a straight line to save my life. But look at how she just, with pencil, she was getting the feeling of the Brooklyn Bridge and the lines and the shadows and the values. Then here is her, this is black and white chalk on brown paper. So here is one of her versions that she did. This time she did it on brown paper with black and white chalk. I thought that was interesting. And actually, I think, let me see here. Yeah, let's go. So here's another one. This is oil. This is all coming from this original sketch that she did, okay? Her original view and her impression. We got the brown paper. Now we've got an oil on a board. And even in this, you can see her lines, her impressions, the different way she uses her colors for the same view. This I love. Okay, let's follow this path. This is the Chrysler Building outside the window. This is a photograph. It's a gelatin silver print. Might be a photograph, I'm not sure. I think. Here's what she did. I love this because, you know, I actually am one that does not always go in and sketch ahead of time. Just honest confessions here. I just don't do it. But look how she did this. This is graphite on paper. She's starting to get her impressions down. Graphite on paper. She's looking at the tower. preparing. She's getting the shapes of the building. Now look at her different progression. This is still graphite on paper. She's looking at the lines, perspectives, angles, more impressions, and these are all her sketches like we do, you know, like we're encouraged to do thumbnails, which I often don't do, honest, to tell you the truth. All right, then here we go. There's a couple more. This was the river that she looked at, the East River. Charcoal on paper, graphite, charcoal. She's progressing in her vision of what she wants to do. Here's part of it, the oil on canvas, and look at her. You can see the brush marks and the crackle of the paint, and the brush marks were just so fascinating just to study and look at. This is the oil on canvas. It's another portion. And look how she has the tower that moves your eyes. She's got, I'll show you in the next one, is bigger. She got the movement here in the river, and then you've got the towers, and then it moves up, and then you see this one, and then there's smoke going up, so it moves your eye through the painting. Here's another version. This is pastel on paper. She's got the moon in there. Here is another pastel on paper, same view. This is oil on canvas. And now we're getting closer to the big one. East River, oil on canvas. And this is a close-up of what we actually were able to see, the original, at the museum. This is just a portion of it. So fascinating. This is the entire painting. Let's see if I can get this in here better. I can move some of my stuff. There we go. But look at this. We've got the boat, the steam, the towers, and it all kind of brings you back in, moves your eye through the painting. As this boat is almost the focal point to me. It's going down the river, and then you see the steam and the smokestacks, and comes back around, and the pastel colors, and it just comes back around. And then she added a little pop of color here with some shapes on the roof. She obviously simplified incredibly, because if you see the pictures of the views that she had, she simplified greatly. Like you can see this over here. Let me come back out a little bit. Like look up in here. You know those buildings had windows and had doors, but they're not in there. She gives just enough to give you the impression that she wants you to feel in this painting. So the shapes, like we talk about all the time, the shapes and the shadows and the high points and the focal points. It's like all the things that we talk about and strive for, you can see done with just such beauty in her work, whether you paint buildings or not. This is just really great to me to see this and to learn from and incorporate into my own practice. And that was kind of what I wanted to take away from this, is what can we do to these principles to put in our own practice. Here's another one. Look at this. It's still the East River. It's still the East River. Oh, let me see if I'm sure about my focus here. Sure, I'm all got this whole picture in the frame. Yeah. It's still the East River. It's just she's using a fixed object that she sees every day. A fixed, not object, a view. A fixed view that she sees every day. But she changes the dimensions. She changes the perspective. She changes the manner in which she paints it. This is one more that I'll leave you with that we thought was really interesting. I was able to go with Jill Williams, who is one of my mentors. And if you haven't checked out Jill, check out jillwilliams.com. You will appreciate Jill's teaching. And she's one of my mentors as well. But the simplicity of this door, this is called Farmhouse Door and Window, that she just gives very slight hints of the shapes of the door, the windows there, the top, and then just the frame, just a little hint of shingles. Isn't that interesting? So mainly I'm sharing this because not only was I blown away by her work, one of these here is my absolute favorite. Let me see if I can find it. Of course, the pictures just don't do justice to what we actually saw, you know. Seeing them in person, up close and personal, and being able to study it and look at it. I can't find the one I was looking for right now, but it was such a glorious experience. And here's the same, you know, same view, same building. This is with the sunspots, she called it. The reason I'm sharing this is because there are so many things, so many takeaways for me personally. The scene, the same view, and using it in different manners, painting it differently. We don't always have to be looking for the next best photo reference or capturing someone else's photo reference. What is right here around us. She also collected shells. She even had shells. When she moved to New York from the Southwest, she had a friend send her in the mail boxes of shells and rocks and twigs and leaves so that she could incorporate them into her paintings. Even though it was not there in New York, it was part of her, and she wanted to incorporate that into what she was doing. So I just learned a lot from going to this exhibition. I hope you enjoy this and just see what you can take away. What can you take away from seeing the way she approached her paintings? That was what really interested me, was the manner in which she saw things, like we talk about seeing like an artist, and then portraying them. So I hope that helps you in your own journey. I know it helped me in mine. And thanks for coming and watching and coming along with me and following your brush as we follow Georgia O'Keeffe and figure out how we can incorporate some of these ideas and concepts into our own painting every day. Thank you, and see you next time. Bye.